This is Ernie C. from Body Count. You're tuned in to NerdCage. Can you like and subscribe?
Rob, actually, I've been meaning to tell you. I'm going to tell you this right here, right now. I discovered you because of my love for Toho. Back in 2019. Okay, you know where I'm going with this. 2019,
Yeah.
A little movie came out in the MonsterVerse called Godzilla King of the Monsters.
Yep.
Yep. You were one of the ones that had the privilege of doing the sneak preview. And by the way,
Mike Doherty invited me to the screening. The director.
Shameless plug though. Please get your NerdCage Live MonsterVerse T-shirt. Shameless plug here. But yes, I saw that you were one of the people on Twitter that saw the movie, and then that led for me to check out your channel, and I watched your sneak peek / review of Godzilla King of the Monsters. So
Yeah, people still give me shit for that too.
really,
Oh, that's a cool shirt. That's a really cool shirt. I love that shirt.
Besides Skull Island, I think to this day that's the best Godzilla MonsterVerse movie in my opinion. I wasn't
agree
a
with
fan of the Godzilla Kong movies, but I loved King of the Monsters and I love Skull Island.
I did too, because I grew up watching first of all, full disclosure, my favorite Godzilla movie actually is not a Godzilla movie, it's Rodan. Rodan is my favorite.
Rodan's fantastic.
Yeah, because it was in color and it scared the shit out of me and I loved it. I loved Rodan. But I've liked all the eras of Godzilla movies. I liked oh yeah, there you go. I love Rodan. And is that a remastered version?
It is the Japanese. Okay, don't come at me, people. It's a bootleg, but it is the Japanese.
How dare you?
It's the Japanese version, English subtitles on Blu-ray.
Hey, look, I'm not gonna.
I know a guy who knows a guy, so
yeah. I mean, I bought a lot of things because it's so hard to get Japanese movies subtitled.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, no, I thought
I've been able to watch in the past few years here. I actually got my hands on a lot of obscure Toho films that have not been properly released in America yet. So, yes, I mean, I'm a bit released in America, just not the Blu-ray, only the DVD.
Yeah, I have the DVD, and but that's the thing. I mean, there's a lot of Toho movies like Matango.
I love Matango.
Matango is awesome, and I love Matango, and I have so much Japanese science fiction. I grew up with that stuff.
Have you seen the Human Vapor?
Yes. That's a great movie too.
Good ones from that era of Toho. That was the peak of Ichiro Honda. Like, I love all those old school Ichiro Honda films. H-Man, Human Vapor.
I was just gonna say H-Man and Human Vapor. I always kind of think of together.
Yeah. It's kind of the same theme going. The Mysterians.
Yeah, the Mysterians. And I love things
Varan,
like Varan's great. Was it Varan the Unbelievable?
Yeah. Full disclosure, I have not seen the American version. I've only seen the Japanese version.
Yeah, well, and then there's also I love movies like Gorath and the Green Slime, and
okay, I did not like Gorath. I'm sorry.
Well, it's kind of stupid, but putting engines on the Earth, and the Japanese ripped it off when they made the Wandering Earth. When I was a kid, I would watch any Japanese. I loved first of all, I love Japanese women.
Yes.
I've never dated a Japanese woman, but I've always loved Japanese women, which is wild. I don't know why, I just never.
Shout out to Kumi Mizuno, who's in all those.
Oh my
Toho.
God, did I love her? I loved her. Oh my God.
She's my favorite Toho actress. I love everything that she did during that era. Obviously being the alien babe, but everything else from Matango and War of the Gargantuas and Frankenstein Conquers the World. Everything. Godzilla versus the Sea Monster. She was great in everything, and
everything.
Candy and she just had a screen presence and very captivating.
Yeah, I mean, she wasn't in any, but then I got into the Japanese Pinky Violence movies with Rieko.
I haven't seen.
Oh, well, they're like women in prison movies, like girl boss movies, like Yakuza films. Okay, but they're like it's sex and violence, and they were all made in the early. So I graduated from Toho Pinky Violence, like Female Prisoner Scorpion, and there's a bunch of great stuff. I mean, I love the Japanese movies of the 60s and 70s.
Oh, absolutely.
Not just science fiction, but all, everything, whether it's Lone Wolf and Cub, or I love all that shit. I love it. Love it, love it, love it, love it. And that was, part of the reason that I think I loved all this stuff is because I was looking for science fiction, fantasy, and horror. We had 3 TV channels, 3 network channels, 2 indie channels, and a PBS channel. So there were only 8 TV stations from the time I was born to the time. I mean, then we got cable in the 80s, but the first 15 years of my life, all you had was that. And when I got a VCR, this is another thing. When I got a VCR, my mom would bring home the TV guide every week, and I would scour the TV guide, and I would look at all the movies that were playing, like from 11 o'clock at night till 6 a.m. And I was able to use it. The greatest thing about a VCR is you could time shift movies. You could record them when you were asleep.
Yep.
And that's when I really started to find a lot of movies that I hadn't seen before. And it's weird because today I'm surprised at, like, look, I've been on the YouTube fan space for 9 years.
Yeah.
And I don't like to be critical of people, but fans today, especially younger fans, don't really watch older movies.
Yeah, I know.
And they don't. What's a bummer about it is I talk a lot about this on my channel, how learning how to watching movies is a skill. And some people said, what? I'm like, well, okay, you can sit down and watch a movie, but if you're only watching a certain kind of movie, if you try and go back and watch a subtitled movie, or you watch a kung fu movie and you can't deal with the out of sync voices and the funny effects or whatever, you have to train yourself how to watch various kinds of movies. And I think one of the things that movie fans have said the last 30 years, they've only been watching studio movies and the occasional maybe foreign action film or something. So to try and get somebody to go back and watch the Mysterians, like, I love the Mysterians. Give me some.
Rob, you know what it is, man? Truth be told, is I grew up in the era where, obviously I had the Joe Bob Briggs Monster Vision and whatnot.
Yeah.
But not only that, but all the Godzilla VHS tapes that I, got as gifts or I bought was always, like you just said, the English dub. So when the DVDs and the streaming services start rolling out, and we'd finally get the proper Japanese versions with the English subtitles, for me as an adult, it was like watching it for the first time again.
Yeah, totally.
Not to mention, I grew up. Okay. So when I was 5-6 years old, I would just fast forward and just watch the monster fights and whatnot.
Yeah.
Eventually, I grew up. But again,
totally.
I grew up with the English dubs, and it was hard to sit through because those English dubs were so. Even as a kid, I thought the dubbing was terrible. But now, as an adult, and seeing it in Japanese with full English subtitles, it's just such a thrill. And if I ever anytime I get my hands on a Toho film or a Jackie Chan film from Hong Kong, that's subtitled. It's a thrill, and that's my preference to watch foreign films.
We're living in a golden age of getting Asian cinema on physical media. You've got companies in the UK like 88 Films and Eureka putting out beautiful versions.
Criterion.
Of Criterion, and then we can get a lot of the Korean film companies. A lot of times, or you can get Japanese movies and bootlegs in Hong Kong. Yeah. And it's great stuff. There's great. Now we can
also,
get everything.
4K. There's no region. 4K is region free.
Most of the time it is. I have some that
really?
You gotta be careful.
I actually got. Do you remember Jackie Chan, Michelle Yeoh, Super Cop Police Story 3?
Yeah.
I got that in 4K from Hong Kong, and it plays on my Xbox. Like, sometimes I look out.
That would be our region though. If you were gonna get a 4K from Europe, there's a because Europe is region B.
Okay. The only
so
pain
you gotta
in the ass was, since it was in Cantonese, it was hell trying to go through the menu and find English subtitles, but I found it.
Right. Oh yeah. I just think about it. When they released, the Godzilla -1, the big box set that everybody was buying that had no Japanese subtitles, and they turned around and said they were going to release it with
I'm waiting
English
for my
subtitles.
copy. I pre-ordered. I'm waiting for. I ordered
Me
from
too.
the
I was just like, click. Because one of my favorite Godzilla pieces of physical media I have, even though it's not subtitled, was I have a box set for Godzilla Final Wars, which is not the greatest movie in the world, but I don't care because I had the greatest.
It's stupid fun. I was lucky to see that in the theater.
Me too. I saw okay, I gotta tell you, this is hilarious.
Yes.
This is one of my most famous. So for whatever reason, they decide to have an American premiere of Godzilla Final Wars at the Chinese Theater in Hollywood, arguably the most famous movie theater in the world.
Cool.
And they had a big Godzilla statue, but they brought like the cast from the movie.
Oh.
And the actresses are dressed up in traditional kimonos, and they look beautiful. But I don't think they quite understood how Godzilla movies are perceived in America. Mm-hmm. And this was Godzilla Final Wars, which is just the most people talk about fan service now.
Yeah.
But that movie is just, and every monster fight, the American, because in Japan, they don't scream and yell like this in movie theaters. It was like being at a WWF event.
Yeah.
And people were screaming and like I couldn't stop laughing when the controller, when Godzilla's fighting Roland Emmerich's Godzilla in Sydney, Australia, and Godzilla wastes our stupid Godzilla, our CG guy. It was literally a man in a suit fighting a CG Godzilla. It was amazing. And the controller's like, when that Godzilla was defeated, the controller's like, I knew that salmon eating iguana was good for nothing. And I couldn't stop laughing. I thought it was the greatest thing ever. And when it was over, the audience just was like standing ovation and people are just screaming. And I think the Japanese actors are like, what's happening? Like they didn't understand.
Oh, no.
But then they realized that they got up and as soon as the cast and crew got up and went to the front of the theater, people screamed even louder. And then they, I just would love to have spoke Japanese and talked to one of those women in the kimonos going, what did you guys think was going to happen?
My story parallels yours, man, and I'm excited to share this story. I don't know if I've shared this with NerdCage Nation, but I'm going to share the story right here with you. This might be something you're familiar. So do you remember back in the old days of the internet, we had MonsterZero.net? Oh yeah. Okay, yes. That's how I found out. Okay, obviously I knew Final Wars was a thing. I knew about Final Wars, but I checked. I went to MonsterZero.net every day just to see if there was any screenings of Final Wars within my vicinity. Lo and behold, Rob, you may be familiar with this place because you're a filmmaker. The George Eastman House Theater in Rochester, New York.
Yep. I've never been there, but I know it.
Yes.
Because it's George Eastman.
Yes, exactly. So so me and my co-host Joe, first and foremost, I went up to Joe. I'm like, hey Joe, what are you doing today? He's like, oh, nothing. I was like, hey, do you want to take a little trip with me? We'll go to Rochester and see this unreleased Godzilla movie. Joe's just like, okay, let's go. We're driving there, and I'm fresh. We're fresh out of high school. I'm 18, fresh out of high school, and I'm like, I kept thinking like, oh my God, there's gonna be like nobody there. We're gonna be some of these random people going to see a random movie. We pull up into the parking lot. This is back in the day when MapQuest was a thing. No GPS, MapQuest. I had all this directions printed out. We pull up into the parking lot, and there's people tailgating, blasting Godzilla music, selling Godzilla toys. I'm like, holy shit! I felt like I was at a sporting event. People tailgating. And I was like, oh my God, everyone's here for this Godzilla movie. And we're all waiting in line. We're all talking like, yeah. Everyone just said, yeah, it was because of MonsterZero.net and blah 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 blah. And then, and then we all sat down. It was a packed theater. And as soon as the Toho logo came on screen, everyone like roared everyone went crazy. It was nuts. It was the craziest movie going experience I ever had. But yeah, I drove an hour and a half back in the summer of 2005 before it was released on DVD in America.
Yeah,
I got to see
that's what.
Final Wars at George Eastman House. It was the one time. That was the second time because I saw Godzilla 2000 because 85 came out before I was born. I was born in 86. Godzilla 2000 was the first Japanese Godzilla movie I'd seen, and Final Wars was the second, and it was such a thrill. It was interesting, because it's a high C era before Millennium era. The 90s, there was so many great, like I loved Godzilla versus Mothra.
and I loved GMK, and I loved Ghidra. The time traveling when the Americans are the villains.
Yes, the World War II. Yeah,
it's so good. I mean, and all that stuff was suddenly. Those movies are really interesting because they were actually like legitimate science fiction films. You know, they weren't. When I was a kid, I knew that okay, these are. But the High Sea era, I really liked that era a lot. I like those movies a lot. I love the designs. I love the fact that they brought back like all the maser cannons and the cool animation. Because the Japanese and no one animates laser beams like the Japanese do.
Yeah.
You know, maser cannons, laser beams. Give me that stuff. I love it. Yes. I love it. And yeah, I mean, I fell back in love with.
I would love to see whether if Toho does it or if the MonsterVerse does it. I want to see another take on War of the Gargantuas. I really do.
Oh, well, I'm surprised that, you know, with Legendary buying the rights to do Toho movies, I'm surprised they haven't remade, because War of the Gargantuas was a movie that sort of broke free of Toho. And
that's
people.
What I was gonna say. I feel like that's the most well-known non-Godzilla Toho monster movie.
Yes. Yeah, because everyone saw it when we were kids, man. And it's like they could totally make that today. They could make a great movie out of War of the Gargantuas. I mean, if I had money, I'd try and get that greenlit. I mean, it'd be great to do that.
Hell, I'd ask Tim Burton to do it.
Oh.
He's been vocal about how that was like the movie that made him want to make movies, was War of the Gargantuas.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a great idea. Maybe you should do that after Beetlejuice.